keeping everybody on time, we're going to go ahead and get started. And we are recording this for people that miss it, and we'll get this posted on our TNOTA web page under the student section. Thank y'all for being here, and thank y'all for being here on time. I especially want to thank our speaker, our presenter tonight, Dr. Williams, who is also here despite almost not having internet access. So I'm very grateful that she is here with us tonight. And I want to give you some information on our speaker before we get started. Tonight, our presenter is Dr. Barbara Williams. She's a certified occupational therapist, and she currently serves as the Vice President in External and Regulatory Affairs Department for the National Board for Certification in Occupational Therapy. And she has worked there for over 10 years. And in this capacity, she is responsible for organizational oversight of functions related to state regulation and community outreach. And previous to that employment with the NBCOT, she has worked in academia, serving as a chair and a program director of an occupational therapy program. So I want to welcome Dr. Williams. We're going to let you guys post questions as they arise in the chat. And then at the end, after her presentation, we will touch base and answer any of those questions that she might not have already answered throughout the chat. So Dr. Williams, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. That was a nice introduction. It sounds like a mouthful, but as you said, I came from academia, so students really are near and dear to my heart. So I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you tonight. So we're going to talk about some information that you need to know, whether it's the OTR exam or the COTA exam. So first, a bit about us as an organization. I like to share this information because it helps frame the rest of what I'm going to be talking about. So our mission is that we strive to serve the public interest in its diversity. We do this by advancing just, equitable, and inclusive client care, as well as just, equitable, and inclusive professional practice. We use evidence-based certification practices. We also use the validation of knowledge that's essential for effective and safe OT practice. So serving the public interest underscores all that we do, whether it's in regard to the OTR or the COTA exam, or to the requirements to maintain certification. All of it goes back to serving the public interest. Just know we are here for you. I want to emphasize this because often students think about NBCOT as being this, ivory tower kind of people, but we want you to know we're here for you. We see ourselves as being on a journey with you after you get through your academic studies throughout your professional career. If you ever have any questions about NBCOT certification, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We'd really like you coming to us so that we know you get the right information. So just know we are here for you. One of the best ways to contact us is email us info@nbcot.org. I have some incredible colleagues who work in client services who are excellent at addressing questions and concerns. And if they don't know the answer, they reach out to one of us on the senior team. So again, we're here for you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can also call us. Our phone number is indicated on our website, but this is a great resource for you. We're also very active on social media, and that's another great way to stay engaged with us. Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're on all kinds of platforms. We really encourage you to follow us if you don't, because if there is information in regard to the exams, in regard to maintaining your certification, any news, any updates, any changes, we post that on these platforms. We also share some things like maybe it's a practitioner doing something innovative in practice, or we'll share students' perspectives, their experiences. Something else we do on these platforms for students is we run contests at times. Contests students can enter to win study tools. We even give away free exams at times. So if you do not follow us on social media, I really encourage you to do so. And it's another way to contact us. You can message us through social. As I said, we share various information on these platforms. You can see there are tips, there's advice, we spotlight, there's so much more. And it's really neat when we highlight like students or practitioners and they see themselves on our social media. But we have some incredible colleagues. There are some incredible students out there doing really great things in practice, and it really is inspiring. And many of them give excellent advice. So again, just an example of information you can find through social with NBCOT. As I said, we also have opportunities to win. And we do this fairly frequently. So connect with us, and it might be something you want to enter in to win. Like I said, we even give away free exams. So, it's worth a try. Know your source of where you're getting your information. Again, it's really important. We want you to come directly to us. I emphasize this because it's not uncommon for us to be contacted, particularly by students who've heard rumors about the exam that create undue stress and anxiety. These rumors are started by third parties who don't have the inside information. They're making suppositions, and it's just misinformation. So it's important you know your source, know where the information is coming from, and make sure it's credible. That's why we say if you connect with us, you'll know it's credible because it's coming directly from the source. Another way to really engage or stay connected with us is to sign up for your My NBCOT account. I tell students it's never too early in your education to do this. You can do it in your first semester of study. This allows you to receive updates directly from us. We can maintain communication with you. If you want to purchase any of our study tools, you will need this account. And also know that it is required to apply for the exam. So you will need a My NBCOT account eventually. But like I said, I encourage students to sign up for this account very early because it's another great way to connect with us. It's very important that you read the exam handbook. So part of the exam application has you attest that you have read it. I tell students, read this in advance of the exam application. This should be your go-to resource in regard to the exam. It's a wealth of information, and I would venture to say it will likely answer any question you have about the exam. It gives you information about how the exam is developed, administered, and scored, what to expect after the exam. It even includes a section of frequently asked questions. So at minimum, read this thoroughly at the time of your application, but read it in advance if you get a chance. We understand the exams create a fair amount of apprehension and anxiety. We get that. And we want to provide you with as much information as we possibly can. And one of the primary ways we do that is through this exam handbook. It can be found on our website. Click on the Students tab, and you'll see it there for you to read. Again, our website, nbcot.org. If you haven't been there recently, I encourage you to go there, get familiar with what's available to you. And again, if you have questions about what's on there, you can email us, info@nbcot.org. Now let's talk about preparing for the exam. This is something that students often have a lot of questions about, and just the thought of preparing can be quite overwhelming. So let's talk about what's covered on the exam. So what content is on the exam? On the OTR exam, there are 4 domains. I describe domains as general competencies. This breaks down the domains of the exam or the knowledge required for entry-level practice. So domain 1 on the OTR exam is 23% of the exam. So 23% of the questions come from domain 1. And this is about acquiring information regarding factors that influence occupational performance on an ongoing basis throughout the OT process. Domain 2 is analysis and interpretation, and that's also 23% of the exam. This is about formulating conclusions regarding client needs and priorities to develop and monitor an intervention plan throughout the OT process. Domain 3 on the OTR exam is the greatest percentage. This is 38%, and this is about selecting interventions for managing a client-centered plan throughout the OT process. And then finally, domain 4 has the lowest percentage at 16%. This is managing professional activities of self and relevant others as guided by evidence, regulatory compliance, and standards of practice to promote quality care. Now, for the COTA exam, there are 3 domains or general competencies. Domain 1 is 27% of the exam. This is collaborate and gather information. This is under the supervision of an OTR, acquiring information on an ongoing basis regarding factors that influence occupational performance. Domain 2 is, as you can see, over half of the exam. 55% of the exam. This is select and implement interventions. This is implementing interventions under the supervision of an OTR in accordance with the intervention plan and level of service competence to support client participation in areas of occupation throughout the OT process. And then domain 3 on the COTA exam is 18%, the lowest percentage. Uphold professional standards and responsibilities. And again, uphold professional standards and responsibilities by achieving service competence and applying evidence-based interventions to promote quality in practice. So these domains or general competencies are further broken down into tasks and knowledge statements. All of this information is found on our website. Now, what I want you to know is the content of the exam, the OTR exam, the COTA exam, does not come from NBCOT staff deciding what you should be tested on. That's not how this works. Every 5 years, we perform what's called a practice analysis survey. So every 5 years, we survey thousands of entry-level COTAs and thousands of entry-level OTRs from all across the country. And we ask them, what knowledge do you need to have? What tasks or jobs do you need to perform? What domains or general competencies do you need to meet as an entry-level practitioner? And that's the content of the exam. I think this is important to share with students for a couple of reasons. One, I hope it builds some credibility, if you will, into the content of the exam. These practice analysis studies are required by our accrediting bodies. Also, I hope it helps to instill in you a real sense of pride when you pass, because what that means is you've demonstrated knowledge in content areas that your peers have deemed as important. So these content outlines are available on our website. And as I said, it's broken down domains, tasks, and knowledge statements to help you understand what is covered on the exam. And the percentages are helpful too, so you know which areas you might want to concentrate on. Often get the question, how long should I study? And coming from academia, I give the answer that students do not like. It depends, right? Because it depends on how you study, who you study with, how you learn, that type of thing. But I do have some data I want to share with you. So when individuals pass the exam, we send them a survey and we ask a number of questions. But one of the questions we ask is, how many weeks did you spend studying? The greatest percentage indicated 6 weeks. Now you can see that's followed by 8 weeks and then 4 weeks, and 5 weeks is not far behind. We also asked how many days a week did you study? And over half indicated they studied 5 days a week. That's followed by 6 days and 4 days. And then we asked how many hours a day. The greatest percentage indicated 4 hours. And then that's followed by 5 hours and 6 hours. So there's not an exact formula here, but what you can obviously take from this data is it takes a fair amount of study. I don't know of anyone who would recommend you try to cram for these exams. There's just too much content covered. The other thing students tell us is it's very important to develop a study plan, to write down the weeks that you're going to study, the days of those weeks and the hours of each of those days, to be very intentional and stick to it. Because what they report is when they don't develop a study plan, Time slips away. And before they know it, it's test taking day, and they have not studied the content that they had intended. So take this data into consideration, take their advice into consideration, and really think about developing a study plan, being intentional, sticking to it. Just remember, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Okay, you need to plan to study. This isn't just going to organically happen. You need to make a plan. Part of the NBCOT study pack, we have a new feature this year, and it actually includes a study plan where you can decide what tools you're going to use, when you're going to use them, how you're going to use them. This came about because of the feedback we got from students. So this is a great new feature of the study pack that what we're hearing has been very helpful for students, considering the advice that their peers have been giving them. So students ask, what tools should we use to prepare? And often I'll have students tell me something like, I have a friend who recently took the exam and he studied a certain way, so I'm going to do the same thing. And I tell students, that's great. Take his advice into consideration, but make sure you put it into the appropriate context. And what I mean by that is your friend may have went through a different curriculum than you, got different grades in particular courses than you, had different fieldwork experiences than you. Your friend may learn differently from you. It's important to not lose sight of study methods that are helping you as you progress through your OT or your OTA curriculum. It's very likely those same types of study methods will help you prepare for the exam. There is no magic tool. There is not one right way to prepare. And there are a lot of scams out there that will tell you, they guarantee if you buy this study information, you'll pass. There is no guarantee. We can't even tell you if you use our tools that we guarantee you will pass. And we're the exam organization. So if you see that, if you see a post, if you see information, if you see material that says, guarantee that you will pass, you should take pause, because it's likely it's not a reputable organization. So again, no company or product can guarantee that you will pass. What worked for someone else may not work for you. We learn differently, we retain information, study, and prepare differently. But again, be aware of these scams. Often you'll see them on social media. These are some that we've actually done screen grabs. And this is one where they say, have you heard of leaked questions and answers? And the individual replies, no, I haven't. I'm gonna be providing you with study questions and answers for your exam date. What I'm gonna be providing to you is gonna be 95% as in your exam. That's false, folks. They can't do that. They don't have access to this information. They're taking your money. This should cause you to take pause. Here's another one. I've been working with candidates for the NBCOT for 6 years now with no failures. Wow. That's not true. It's an adaptive test, so we take great precautions in extracting the questions from the database system. They can't do that, folks. The security measures that we have in it can't happen. But students believe this, right? So, you know, the individual says, okay, I'll get back with you. I want to make sure I can get the money. It's a scam. So just another example. And finally, we deal and specialize in helping you guys obtain certificate with or without sitting for the exams. Folks, you can't get certified without taking the exam. You know, and these individuals are indicating with or without sitting for the exam. We provide lead questions where there are no lead questions. We can control your score. Oh, for goodness sakes, I don't know where they come up with some of this, but they said they can control the score. We can change your previous score if it's not more than 2 or 3 months old. It just, you know, I share these with students because, you know, I appreciate the apprehension, the anxiety. You know, you want to pass and you want to do the right things to pass, but these are social scams. Some of these actually lift our logo, have stolen the NBCOT logo from like our social media pages. And in fact, it wasn't too long ago, I saw a post where someone had gone to one of the conferences and took a picture of our tablecloth and was using that on their social media. It's not our stuff. It's not our stuff. They're obviously not reputable, good organizations. So again, just go to the source, make sure it's a reputable company. Now, what we hear from students is a great way to study. We hear this repeatedly, is to take practice questions over and over and over again to get used to what those questions are like. So let's walk through one here. I have to move my screen around here so I can read everything. A client who has cognitive and motor deficits secondary to the onset of Huntington's disease is participating in OT. One of the client's goals is to be independent with dressing. Which intervention activity is best to include as part of the initial intervention plan? A, educate the client and caregivers about methods for adapting the fasteners on the client's clothing. Teach the client to use a sequence checklist to mark off tasks as they are completed during dressing. And C, use backward chaining methods and hand-over-hand assistance to teach adapted dressing skills. So let's walk through this question. What's important? What should you note? Well, we have a client who has cognitive and motor deficits, and this is secondary to Huntington's disease. One of their goals is to be independent with dressing. That's the goal, independence in dressing. What intervention activity is best as part of the initial intervention plan? Okay, all of the text that's highlighted here is important. If you would leave out one or more of these phrases, these words, it could lead you to the wrong answer. So what is the right answer? A, educate the client and caregivers about methods for adapting the fasteners on the client's clothing. Why? Huntington's disease is a disorder characterized by progressive neurodegeneration. Symptoms typically include choreoathetoid movements and alterations in behavior and cognitive functions. A client who's in the early stages of HD would benefit most from learning techniques to compensate for motor deficits. Okay, so that gives you the rationale, gives you the correct answer, as well as a rationale for why that answer is correct. So as I said, students strongly recommend taking a lot of practice questions. I want to let you know in the NBCOT study pack, we have over 1,100 practice questions. These come in various forms, things like quizzes, all the way up to a full-length practice exam. In the study pack, if you purchase the study pack, you also get the study guide. Now, you can also purchase this separately, but if you purchase the study pack, the study guide comes in an ebook format, but you can purchase it separately in ebook or hard copy. But I bring this up because there are a lot of practice questions in that study guide, and they come with the correct answer as well as a rationale and a reference supporting that correct answer. So students report they really like this because it gives them an opportunity to get used to the format and the flow of actual exam questions. It also gives them a great opportunity to really practice their critical thinking, their clinical reasoning, because they're provided with that correct answer as well as a rationale and a reference. So when should you apply for the exam? Well, it's never too early to create a My NBCOT account. Remember, I said you have to have that before you can apply. So you can create an account as soon as you would like. The exam application, it's important that you remember that it's valid for 90 days once you submit the application. So you don't want to do the application 6 months before you graduate, okay? Because it's valid for 90 days once you submit the application. Often get asked, how do I apply for testing accommodations? This is a request that you make at the time of your exam application. We have an entire handbook dedicated to testing accommodations request available on our website, just like the exam handbook. You also need to read this thoroughly if you're going to be making testing accommodations request. Documentation is required of you, and you need to get that documentation in order. I can tell you that frequently exam applications that include testing accommodations requests, those applications get delayed. And it's simply because students submit either incomplete or incorrect documentation. So you need to get that in order if you're making a testing accommodations request. Remember, being prepared prevents delays. Another part of the exam application includes the NBCOT Code of Conduct. There are 9 principles to our Code of Conduct. And this adds value to your certification because others know that you're being held accountable to professional behaviors. So basically, you're indicating that you will practice according to the law, that you will practice with integrity, that you will not misrepresent yourself. As I said, there are 9 principles, but part of the application is that you attest to abide by the Code of Conduct. Part of the exam application has what we call character review questions. These questions help us meet our mission of serving the public interest and also address our code of conduct. So there are questions like, have you ever had a professional license, registration, or certification denied, revoked, or suspended? Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been found by a court to have committed intentional misconduct, which resulted in harm to another? Have you ever been suspended and or expelled from a college or university? So these are questions that are also part of the exam application. And I think you can see how these help us address our mission of serving the public interest. Remember to always apply for the exam first and then send in your transcripts. So complete the exam application. You will then ask the registrar's office to submit to us at NBCOT your official final transcript. And we encourage you to ask them to send that to us electronically if it's at all possible. Reason being, it expedites the process. We can process your application quicker when we get your transcripts via email. And there are very secure means to do that. So if they can send it electronically, we encourage you to include that in your request, and they can simply send it to us at transcripts@nbcot.org. Degree verification form. This isn't used by a lot of students, but I cover it because we frequently get questions. This form allows you to take the exam if you've completed all your fieldwork, all your degree requirements, all of your curriculum, but you don't have access to your official final transcript. Just remember, if you test using the DVF, the degree verification form, you will not know whether you passed or failed until we receive your official final transcript. We do not release the score until we receive your official final transcript. If you think testing using this form applies to you, check with your program director. They are your best resource. How do you schedule the exam? Well, first, when your application is approved, not submitted, but approved, within 2 to 3 business days, you will receive what's called an authorization to test letter or an ATT letter. This letter allows you to schedule and take the exam. You can't do either without this letter, as it has a special code on it that you will need. This letter is active for 90 days. That means you have 90 days to take the exam. When is the exam offered? Well, it's offered daily at test centers all across the United States. Okay, this is a national board certification. Pearson VUE administers our exams. So they have numerous testing facilities all across the country. Many of them offer evening and weekend hours. So you can take the exam anywhere it's offered. So you can go to school in Tennessee and take the exam in Texas. You could take the exam in Florida. You could take the exam in California, anywhere it's offered. So what is the exam experience like? Well, we have exam tutorials on our website. So I really encourage you, we have one for the OTR exam, one for the COTA exam. So if you want to become more familiar with what the exam looks like, how to navigate the exam, again, go to our website. There are great resources for you there. And this is just a screenshot of the OTR exam tutorial. But as I said, we have one for the COTA exam as well. You can also select your background and your font color. There's also a strikeout feature you can use so you can eliminate options that you deem distracting or incorrect. You can highlight text that you want to pay particular attention to. And then you can also flag questions for review. And I want to share with you a test taking strategy. Folks, when you get to challenging questions, do not leave the questions blank. If you leave them blank and you run out of time, the question is automatically wrong. There's nothing for us to score. When you get to challenging questions, make an educated guess, flag the question for review. If you run out of time, at least you have a chance of getting it right because you've made a good guess. But if you have time remaining, you could take advantage of this feature where you go back and reread the questions you have flagged and decide if you want to stay with your original answer. When are exam results released? So when will you find out if you passed? Well, go to our website. Again, we have the exam scoring calendar posted on our website. We don't score the exam every day of the week. It's usually 2 to 3 times a month. Those dates are clearly indicated in this calendar. What's very important to note, you need to take the exam 3 days prior to a scoring date in order to get your score on that date. So for instance, let's say you wanted to get your score on April 11th. You need to take the exam no later than the 8th. If you take the exam on the 9th, 10th, or 11th, you're going to have to wait until the next scoring date, which is the 24th. But refer to this resource, Exam Scoring Calendar. You will know the actual date that you will receive your score. What do you do after you pass? Well, you celebrate. This is quite an achievement, folks. These are national board certifications, and we don't give them away. They are earned. A lot of investment on your part. So it is time to celebrate, and we certainly hope that you take the time to do so. Also, please remember you need to apply for a state license before you can begin practicing. Students often confuse that they think they've taken care of certification, so they're ready to go to work. That's not true. Passing the exam is step one, but you also have to have a license in the state where you want to practice. We have another great resource on our website that has all the states indicated with a direct link to their licensure boards, their regulatory boards. So you can get on there and see what is required to apply for a license in that jurisdiction so that you can practice OT. How do you maintain your certification? Well, your initial certification is good for 4 years. After that, you'll need to renew every 3 years. We do initial certification 4 years to be fair to those who take the exam later in the year versus earlier in the year. We keep in contact with you throughout these renewal periods, so it shouldn't creep up on you by any means, but initial certification is good for 4 years. After that, it's every 3 years. Know that your certification matters. As soon as you pass the exam, you're given access to a digital badge. Individuals like to share these in places like social media or on their professional email signature. You're also provided with a certificate that indicates you are certified to practice occupational therapy. Why does certification matter? I want you to know that we surveyed employers, we surveyed the public, we surveyed OTRs and COTAs and said, why does certification matter? And this is what they're reporting. It ensures a consistent national standard for OT practice, has a code of conduct that benefits the profession, and certificates are more engaged and committed to the profession. It improves the reputation of OT professionals, helps reinforce that OT professionals are providing safe and effective care, and that OT professionals work toward enhancing competency. So that's about the exam. I want to wrap up with just a little bit of information about a new initiative that we at NBCOT have taken on because we'd like your help in this. It's a new campaign we started. It's called Why Choose OT? And basically, we want to help inspire others about this awesome profession. We've noted that there has been a significant decrease in the number of the applications to OT and OTA programs. We've noted the lack of diversity in the profession. We've also noted that there are still individuals that don't know what occupational therapy is. So we want to help inspire others about this awesome profession. But as I said, we'd like your help. So social media. We have the @YChooseOT. We share content, and we ask that you like our content. That just makes it reach more individuals. Maybe you can repost it or reshare it. Comment on our content, and maybe tag other students or OT professionals. Again, with your help, we can get the word out in a far greater degree than we can on our own. So we also encourage you to share your story on what inspired you to choose OT. So you can scan this QR code and share your story. We highlight individuals on social media every week. And it's really encouraging to hear how people got into occupational therapy and why they're so passionate about it. So we can't wait to see the amazing things that you will do as an OT professional. So that's all I have, folks. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to answer any questions that you might have. So any out there, Jennifer?
There are not any posted currently in the chat, but we have such a small group too. If you feel comfortable in asking Dr. Williams your questions,
Absolutely.
out loud, that would be great. If you'd feel more comfortable posting it in the chat, I'll be glad to ask. Do any of the students right now have any questions? If not, I have a couple of questions that I might ask. So one of my questions, oh, here's one. Is there a limit on how many times you can take the test? Is one.
Yeah, no, there is not in Tennessee. There are a couple of states. I know Florida is one that puts a limit on it. But as far as we're concerned, you can take it as many times as you want, but you would want to check with your regulatory board.
Okay, great. And how much time do they have to take the
Good
exam?
question. 4 hours. The other thing I often get asked is, what if I take a break? If you take a break, the clock keeps running. So time management is very important. And students frequently say, there's no way I'm going to make it 4 hours without taking a break. That may be so. If you need a break, take it, but come back and manage your time. I will also venture to say this is likely to be one of the fastest 4 hours of your life. The time simply flies by. So you might surprise yourself. You may not need to take a break.
Good. Okay. And how much does the exam cost?
$575 for the initial exam application. It does go down. I think it's $375 for retakes, but we certainly hope that's none of you, that you all take this advice into consideration and really prepare, and you don't have to do a retake.
Okay. And that's the same for OTs and OTAs?
Yes, good question. Yep.
Okay. Great questions so far. What other questions do you all have? One of my questions, Dr. Williams, that I was thinking about, maybe not for this group here, but maybe for those that might be viewing the recordings, is what suggestions do you have for newer students that are earlier on in their program? Do they need to prepare right now, or what's their best strategy for like ongoing preparation as they move through their coursework?
Good question. So, what I tell students is you need to graduate from your program before you can take the exam, right? If you don't graduate, you're not eligible to take the exam. So if you're struggling in the curriculum, if there's a course or courses you're having difficulty with, or maybe you're having trouble with fieldwork, concentrate on that. That needs to be your first focus, your primary area of concentration. Now, I can tell you there are a number of students that are doing fine in their curriculum, and some of them start studying early. What I often hear is in our study pack, we have flashcards and we have matching games. So students will start participating in them as early as a year prior to the exam because they're doing fine in their courses. Field work has been good, and they feel like they want to be making some progress. So it's appropriate to start doing small things like that if you're doing okay in your curriculum, okay? Please hear me in that. It's very important that your primary focus be your academic preparation, because if you don't pass, if you don't graduate, you're not eligible to take the exam. Good question.
Great advice. Very good. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the exam in July and then I get married in September. Is there any, I know I have to fill out the name change form with my like licensure. Is there anything I need to do with the NBCOT certification?
Yeah, so when you apply for the exam, just know that when you take the exam, when you go to the test center, you have to provide picture ID. So whatever identification, whatever name you have on your identification is the name you should use to apply for the exam. Okay, so after that, you would need to go to your My NBCOT account and do a name change so that we have the right information for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good questions. I appreciated the chart that you showed with the breakdown of the weeks to study and how many hours of the day to study and all of that. I thought that was super interesting. And that was that students that had passed the exam or students that took the exam?
Students that passed.
Okay,
So
great.
we do
Okay.
not see, yeah, we do not send them a survey until they pass.
Okay.
And this survey has a number of questions, but that's some of the data that I wanted to pull from that. And I just encourage students that when they pass and they get the survey, we just kindly ask that they fill it out, because it just pays it forward then. It helps those who are coming behind them. So, but good question. Yes, that is students who have passed the exam.
Perfect. That was very interesting. I
Yeah.
loved reading those graphics and the way you broke it down real specifically, because you could say, "Oh, I studied for 20 days." Well,
Yeah.
that's 1 hour a day or 5
Yeah,
hours
right,
a day,
right.
or
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, that was very interesting. Any other questions from the students? And I think we've covered everything in the chats. Dr. Williams, was there anything else that you wanted to add before we finish up tonight?
I don't think so. If you have questions after this presentation, please, again, do not hesitate to reach out to us, info@nbcot.org. For some of you, this may have been brand new information and you're just trying to soak it in and you're not even sure what you don't know yet. As I said, we want you to get information directly from us, and we want you to feel comfortable reaching out to us. So if questions come up at a later time, you can call us, you can message us on social media, email us, info@nbcot.org.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Dr. Williams, and
Sure,
thank you for
yeah,
reaching out to us and
yeah,
answering the questions and breaking
absolutely.
down the factual information and how to even go about applying for the exam. I feel like that was super helpful. And I feel like a lot of the students will be viewing the recording as well to get this information. And your website has a wealth of information too. So we
Great.
all appreciate you and your time. And especially thank you for being here with all the
Sure.
technical issues
Yeah,
that
I'm glad it worked out.
it
Yeah,
almost affected us, but
yeah,
yeah, just minutes before all the
yeah.
plans got in place. So we appreciate you being here. And if there's ever
Oh, you're
anything
very
that we can
welcome.
do for you here in Tennessee, please reach out to
Yeah,
us. And
sure,
again,
sure.
thank you for your time this evening and for all of the
Absolutely.
information.
All right. Well, yeah, I hope it was helpful. And again, don't ever hesitate to reach out. We are glad to be there for you. So, well, thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.